Everyone, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, you see I've got the Lyman digital trigger pull gauge here, so we're going to be doing a little bit of trigger pull testing. So I just got this thing and it's definitely very interesting. This is supposed to be one of the more accurate ones that are available out there. So very cool because of course you hear all these people talking about, oh, my trigger's, this weight and blah, 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 and you just have no idea. So what are we doing now? We're going to be looking at different trigger connectors, because I've never really been a person that needs a different trigger for my Glocks, right? So I do modify with a 25-cent trigger job, and then if I don't think that's enough, then I'll grab one of these. This one is the Ghost Rocket, and it has the little, they call it a TCT, for the overtravel stop that you have to fit for your particular Glock. This is a factory connector, right? So that's really all I do for my Glock. So we're gonna go with a couple Glocks. So this one's Glock 34, and this one has an all factory trigger. Then we've got my Glock 26L, 19 short, whatever you wanna call it. This has the most rounds out of any Glock that I have, and it has the 25-cent trigger job, plus I stoned the Cruciform as well as the trigger bar itself. So we'll see that this one's going to be really interesting to me. Then we've got the Ghost Rocket 3.5 pound connector, which is just like this one right here in here. So that's the Glock 17. Then this one will be also very interesting, very interested to see, is the the Ghost 3.0 pound unit performance connector. So this one has its own over travel stop, and they claim it's around 3 pounds. So let's get these things in the vise so that we can get them tested. All right, so they say they recommend a vise with pads. I don't have that, so we're having to use some microfiber, and I'll show you what I'm doing. And I'm not going to bore you with all, because I'm going to do an average of 5. I'm not going to bore you with an average of 20 trigger pulls. So we're just gonna, I'll show you this one to show you what I'm doing, and then we'll take it from there. So here's the first one. 5 pounds, 13.8 ounces. So that averages out to 6 pounds, 0.2 ounces for a Glock factory trigger, or trigger connector. So no mods done to this one other than pre-travel removal and over-travel removal. So I like the break that this one has. That's why I kept it stock. All right, so this one's going to be real interesting because this has the 25-cent trigger job with the pre-travel and the over-travel removal, and I stoned the Cruciform as well as the trigger bar itself. So this will be interesting. Four pounds, 1.0 ounce. 4 pounds, 7.6 ounces. Average, 4 pounds, 3.4 ounces. So here we've got the Glock 17. This one has the Ghost Rocket 3.5 pound connector. So let's see where it lines up. 3 pounds, 6.7 ounces. 3 pounds, 10.7 ounces. Average is 3 pounds, 13 ounces for the Ghost 3.5 pound rocket. All right, here's the one that I've been waiting for. So this is the Ghost Unit Performance 3 pound connector. Let's check it out. 3 pounds, 1.5 ounce. 3 pounds, 7 ounce. Average 3 pounds, 11.8 ounces. So I took some notes. What did y'all think? Are these connectors worth it? That, of course, is up to you, because when you get the reduced trigger pull or trigger pull weight from a connector like these Ghost units, what's going to happen is you get a longer, more spongy kind of trigger pull. So, example, that's why I leave this one stock, because it's got a very crisp break, Whereas if you look at the Ghost, the unit performance, I'll try to get it in there. It's got quite a bit more creep, right? So there are features and benefits to either or. If you like a crisp break, polish up your original Glock trigger. If you just want a lighter pull that's a little bit more smooth all the way through, get yourself one of the Ghost, get the Ghost unit performance if you want to drop in, or if you want something that removes as much of the over travel as possible, then you'll want to get one of the Ghost Rocket. in 3.5. That will help you, right? Or you can go for the whole thing with no cost to you other than your time and do a trigger pull or a trigger polish with the 0.25, as they call it, 25-cent trigger job, and then stone, I called it a trigger bar earlier, obviously that's the striker, and the Cruciform, right? So I took some notes. Glock 34, this is a stock trigger, came in at an average of 6 pounds, 0.2 ounce. The 26L, 19 short, whatever you want to call it, is 4 pounds, 3.4 ounce. That's pretty respectable for an all factory trigger that I basically just polished and then stoned some components. Glock 17 has the Rocket 3.5 pound with, I think they call it a TCT. So it's this little guy right here, which helps you remove over travel. And that came in at 3 pounds, 13 ounces, pretty impressive. And then the Ghost Unit Performance came in at 3 pounds, 11.8 ounces. So yes, it's the lightest, but is it right around 3 pounds? No, you know, maybe if you test it down here closer to the bottom of the trigger. So what I was trying to do was, you know, where I pull the trigger, which is kind of in the middle of the trigger, that's where I was trying to get that trigger bar, was right there in the middle. I noticed while testing, if you try to put it way down here at the bottom, you get some crazy, crazy readings. One of the readings I had for this one when I did that was like 1 pound, 11 ounces or something like that. Because of course, way down here, you get more leverage, right? So it's probably truthful, but most people aren't pulling the trigger way down there at the bottom. They're doing it right there in the middle. So that's why I aimed for the middle, and these readings might be a little different than the readings that you get. But anyways, that's all I got for you. Sorry the video is a little bit long, but if you like my content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you.